did you see that live letter? Friday was utterly ridiculous. I have seen many live letters now, but this could have been an expansion. This could have easily been an announcement of expansion features. 3.5 hours long of just feature after feature after feature after feature. And I thought it was worth sitting down to go through what I'm most excited about 6.2 because, god damn, man, I made a lot of WoW players watch it. I did. I was streaming Dragonflight Alpha through that. And then the live letter was started. I was like, okay, we're stopping. Live letter time. Let's strap in. Let's get in. And obviously, a lot of people are like, what the fuck is a live letter? What are you talking about? I was like, this is how FF14 handles their patch notes and stuff. I said, even if you're not into this game, even if you have no interest in Final Fantasy 14 and you only play WoW, it's worth watching this to just see how the devs communicate with the audience and how they literally when people saw Yoshi P play the game, they're like, oh shit, like the devs just play the game. Like, yeah, that's what they do. It was extraordinary, and it was magnificent to see that they have an almost earned righteousness about 6.2 is that they kept a lot of stuff secret. They're like, oh yeah, and this is going to be here, and they had a little giggle between Yoshi P and Marble as they were like, yeah, and there's that, and we're not going to tell you anything. I think the most prevalent example with that would be the new trial that's coming, which is, again, for our WoW audience, this is the individual raid bosses that you get. So they're like, think of it like Onyxia, where they're on their own. And you get loads of those in Final Fantasy 14, loads of them. There's a new one coming, which has like a normal mode, which is going to be part of the story. And then they have the extreme version, which is kind of like somewhere between normal and heroic WoW boss. And usually really, really fun. I've just recently completed every single one of them in the game, and it's been a wonderful journey. And they're just like, yeah, it's a secret. It's a secret. Like, not going to tell you, not going to tell you. And data mining, I know, again, to our WoW guys, data mining is a commonplace thing in World of Warcraft. Like, as soon as a new patch comes out, WoWhead runs a stream where they dig into the files and find everything. Data mining obviously does happen, but it is so frowned upon by the community, and it is really against the devs. They do not allow it in any circumstances. And there's been recent controversies about that with people finding these files and making them public. Like, that is not something that's done in FF14. No data mining, nothing like that. It obviously takes place, but not public, not broadcast or anything like that. And they're keeping the boss secret. And they just was like, yeah, we even made a little screenshot of you that just says, we don't know what it is, and you'll find out on the day. Because they're so protective, and rightfully so, of their story, which is a huge part of FF14. And the boss is going to be story related. I personally think it's going to be Golbez or something like that. I think they're going to put a plot twist, or the Black Knight, if you've not played Final Fantasy IV, that's going to be in there. I don't know, though. Hard to say. We did think it was going to be one of the throne elements, Scamiglione, but now we see that's in a dungeon boss. We saw that as well. Okay, so let's jump into this. Obviously, this was huge. I do want to talk about the island sanctuaries because we're going to lose so many players to this. And they gave us a good preview. And the word that was flying around everywhere is just how cozy this thing is. How cozy. And it had such high expectations on it. High expectations about what was going to be in the island sanctuaries. And some people were still a little miffed that it's not going to be like proper player housing, which they never said it would be. You do get to build your own home on your island, as every individual person does get an island. And Jesus Christ, the sheer scale of this thing is massive. One thing I was looking for going through is like, what is there to do? As Yoshi P played through it and was like, okay, I'm going to give you an idea of what this is. There is going to be some time gating involved. We're not looking for you to get real sweaty with this thing. We don't want you spending like 12, 14 hours a day here. Okay. Okay. Judging by my audience, is like some people are going to be lost to this for all time. It's a place to go when you're waiting for your dungeon queues, and you've always got something to do there, and you can go and get your animals and feed them. Basically, you know, you get your own little world that you can farm your crops, water them. A lot of menus. You've got to change your mode from planting crops to watering the crops, and then go and find your animals. I just know there's going to be some super rare stuff in there that's going to drag... people are lost there already. Like, this is exactly what people were hoping it would be. They wanted that Animal Crossing vibe. They wanted that Stardew Valley vibe, where they can just chill and relax and just listen to a stream, put Netflix on, YouTube, whatever it might be, and just get on with their day of hunting and gathering, and then building up their little sanctuaries and making them perfect. So I was so glad for that, because the expectations were so goddamn high. I still don't know if I'll like it. as much as I'm kind of interested in seeing it, it's absolutely not what I'm most interested in when it comes to 6.2 and 6.2.5, which I'll have to mention. But to see the sheer amount of stuff that people are going to get to play with and craft and then customize, it's just a palette, it's just a world you can mess around in. And then, once again, they made the point of, this isn't a one and done thing. This is going to be, we expect to expand on this thing every couple of patches, essentially. We want to just make sure it keeps growing. We have full roadmap, we have a full timeline. We know what we want to add to this as we keep going. What we're going to get in 6.2 is going to be the very bare bones version of this system, and then it's going to just expand, because they fully expect people to love this thing. They fully expect to keep going with it. And we talked a little bit about what exactly features of the game have been abandoned in Final Fantasy XIV. And some people pointed out a few, like squadrons, etc., things like that, that haven't really gone anywhere since. But for the most part, personally, I have a lot of faith that when Square Enix introduces something new, certainly in the modern era, it's not for a single expansion. It's for all time. They're looking to make sure it's evergreen, which is a big focus of Final Fantasy XIV, is to make sure, okay, we're introducing this thing. We'll baby steps fix things you don't like, and then we'll keep updating it and try and get it into a place that you love. And that was a theme throughout this whole thing, is like, please, God, give us feedback on this, because there's a number of changes coming, such as delaying Savage raiding for a week. Wonderful change. I saw this effect happen in World of Warcraft. Universally praised. Especially when you've got so much content coming, so much rich, interesting story, so much development, is that players who are dedicated raiders and they want to be part of their team, and their team is going day one, but they still want to enjoy that story. They still want to drink it in. They still want to be immersed. They want to know what's going on. They don't want to have to go back and replay it at some point, and they don't want to be a skipper and skip through it so that they can be ready for the raid immediately. And so this is a good change, but obviously this is a very different audience. So maybe it won't work in Final Fantasy XIV. And they're ready for that. And they're like, okay, let us know. Maybe you guys just don't like this. Maybe you'd prefer to just get going from the start. Especially with the gearing changing, because you're going to have more gear going into Savage. But we think we've got it right. When we saw that Proto Carbuncle come flying down out of the sky, and we should be just teasing it a little bit to see what it would do. Show you the first mechanic. It's like, okay, so you won't wipe to the first mechanic. But, I mean, what happens next is going to be entirely up to you, and you'll have to see what's going on. But it was great, and of course, instantly the summoners were like, can we get Proto Carbuncle? They actually gave a lore reason for this. It's like, even if you could summon this thing, you'd never be able to control it, so it would be a bad idea. To which all the Giga Chad summoners were like, well, I could do it. I'm strong enough. I could get it done. The Island Sanctuaries, I've never been into those kind of games. Those simple, cozy farmers. I'm usually much more interested in some sort of action, something that keeps me mentally engaged. I don't really have a lot of time to just chill, but I'm going to try it. And who knows, maybe it'll be just like FF14, because I didn't think I'd enjoy this game either. And here we are today. We're like, oh, fuck me. This is great. I do want to put out a personal grievance, is that I hoped and prayed, much to the chagrin of the many thousands of people who joined us for the live letter, when they revealed the cafe at the end of the universe that we're going to be updating with the new tribal quest lines. I was like, please don't be a good mount, because it's based on gathering. And I haven't done my professions yet. I know, I'm getting there. Slowly but surely I'm getting there, but it's a whole MMO. There's a lot of fucking pieces for me to uncover, and my next goal is every role quest, which we're only a couple of levels away from being able to do every single one. And I was like, please don't be a good mount. Please don't. And then Jelly Belly came out, and I was like, mother, god damn it, dude. Jelly Belly looks awesome. It looks so good. It's so goofy and so stupid. I was like, oh, God. So I've got to level my professions. That has to happen now. It's going to happen. Sweet Moses. Sweet, sweet Moses. So, I mean, I'm glossing over, just like they did, new MSQ, Tataru, Hildebrand, that's 65, all that stuff. And they glossed over it as well. The new Unreal and Sephiroth. I was expecting them to say something like, oh, you kind of considered the previous Unreal a little too easy. Ultima was a little too easy. So maybe we'll make it a bit more difficult. But they didn't. They're just like, yeah, Sephiroth's coming back. And then there was like an off-the-cuff comment by Yoshi P where he's like, remember when he first came out and people were like, this is really, really hard. This is really, really hard. I remember. So I think it is going to be quite a bit more difficult than the current one, but we'll wait and see on that. We'll wait and see. But I want to get to the most... this thing was packed. Like I said, 3.5 hours of new features, and they were just smashing them out. He's doing some of the most badass weapons that I've ever seen. And some really interesting stuff. The trailer showed off the memory crystal, kind of pulling maybe a little Doctor Who thing. If anybody who follows Doctor Who's with the stopwatches, if you understand what I'm talking about, you'll get what I'm saying with the memory crystals as to who the reveal of what's been buried inside there. The title is, of course, Buried Memories. And La Habrea, it's going to be good. It's going to be really good. But they just glossed over that stuff. They were like, that's not the big deal. What my biggest exciting thing is actually the new variable dungeons, the Criterion dungeons, and of course the new Savage dungeons. This is going to be huge in the next couple of patches. Like, absolutely the biggest thing I'm looking forward to. The reveal of Nanamo as the person who's going to be guiding you through these dungeons was fantastic. I really love what they're doing with the character development of Nanamo. Now, she's broke away from Raban for quite some time. She's come into her own, and now she's going to be taking on these expeditions into this weird, wonderful, constantly changing environment, which we now know has 12 different endings that are going to come from them. So we saw the doors, where you'll get to choose. And so it's likely 3, 2, 2. The guys in the chat were doing the quick math. It's like you'll get 3 and then a choice of 2 and a choice of 2 to get to the 12 possible endings that come from this. I just know that when I dive into this content, that my entire day is going to be just exploring this thing. I absolutely know. I'm going in as blind as possible. I always play the patch a week after. Very different to my usual approach for any other game, which is like, let's jump in and see what's going on. But I always play a week after because people want to take their time to enjoy the story and certainly don't want to be spoiled or live vicariously through me playing it. So we delay it a week. But when that comes out, and we've had a number of people who've agreed to not check into the system until we're ready to play it, I'm just not going to have my whole day there. I don't care that it's easy. And that's a big change that's happened in my life over the course of playing FF14 is the difficulty. I'm not bothered. Whereas in a game with, like, that I enjoy the challenge for, like, certainly for WoW stuff, if it was like, it's just dead easy, the story wouldn't be good enough for me to care about doing it on the easy mode. I try and get through it as quickly as humanly possible and then move on to either the more difficult challenge or just move on to something else. In this, I don't give a shit about the difficulty. I want to know the endings. It's been such a dramatic change in my perception. And one thing I've been looking for in the Dragonflight Alpha videos, you've been watching those, is I've been commenting on the story. And, like, what's the story doing? Where's it taking us? Because I have a newfound appreciation for just how good the story can be in MMOs through FF14. Like, I can really start to give a shit about these characters. I can really get engaged with it. And if I am engaged with it, I have such a good time that I'm now at the point where it's like, oh, the really easy mode is actually just going to be a bunch of story stuff with Nanamo and then 12 various endings. We saw Lolorito was exposed. I'm like, excellent. That's great. That's exactly what I want, and I can't wait for that. Yes, I want the difficult stuff as well. And this has been an interesting point. We're going to do a separate video on this, actually, because Yoshi P brought up something very interesting during the live letter. Actually, it wasn't during the live letter. It was during the interviews that he'd been doing on Japanese gaming websites leading up to the live letter. And he talked about dungeon design. And a big question I always get is, do you think FF14 could do with a system like Mythic Plus? Now, don't start writing. This is just the conversation that's out there. And obviously, that alarm bell has been rung by the amount of Westerners going into FF14 who have come from World of Warcraft, is that they're looking for that small-scale player difficult challenge. They're looking for that. It's been something that's been requested across multitudes of games for many, many years, is smaller groups, tight-knit groups, really close friends, looking for very difficult challenges to overcome. And of course, WoW has Mythic Plus to do that. And you see those groups that are very tight-knit and are community farming around doing very, very difficult content inside the dungeon space. And FF14 doesn't offer that until now. So, very briefly, without going into what I would put into a properly researched video that we're working on right now, it's like, no, not really, because the current FF14 dungeons don't accommodate that style of play. And just adding, say, difficulty modifiers, affixes, or whatever, if you were trying to just copy-paste like a WoW system onto it, it just wouldn't work. Those dungeons are designed to be small-scale engagements, and then usually some sort of environmental barrier or something changes, which allows you to move forward, and it fits with a story and a thematic theme. And obviously, FF14 dungeons are far more designed to tell a story than they are to be, and certainly in the normal mode, and even the upper versions, than anything else. They're not designed to be a massive wall, right? They have that in some of the 4-player extreme trials and things like that, but players thirst after that kind of content, and they're aware of that, which is why you're now getting the Savage Dungeons, and the clever way that they're just making it into a new system, because it doesn't retrofit onto the previous dungeons right now. They could do it, but it might mess with the other dungeons, and we've seen the effect of that in WoW. And a great example, if you didn't see my Dragonflight video looking at the new Uldaman, which is a level, previously was a level 50 dungeon in classic World of Warcraft and is now coming back in Dragonflight for the modern era, it has less going on in the new version than it did in the version 15 years ago. 15 years ago, they had all these cool RP moments that I very much have in my memory from all those years ago, of the door lighting up and the giant maiden walking through these doors after you crafted a staff and stuck it into a little model of the city, and that then unlocked the door. The final boss, Arcadus, was fused into stone until you broke it out, and then it screamed and went, "I am Arcadus." And then this giant monolith came crushing towards you. That was great. The new version has none of that, because it's designed with this Mythic Plus speedrun style in mind, and therefore all that flavor has been taken away. And I was really sad about that. I was like, wow, the version 15 years ago had way more immersive things and interesting things happening than the new version. And that kind of sucks. And you don't really want that for FF14 either. So they've taken the approach of like, yeah, that doesn't work, so we're just going to make brand new style of dungeon that will separate off from the normal dungeons that you used to, because we're still getting Troya as a normal style of dungeon in this patch, but now you're getting this style of dungeon as well, which works with this idea, where it's going to be a set route. And coming back to my original point, is Yoshi P said, no, it's a very linear route. And the reason we're going to do that is because if we make it very non-linear, people just find the best route very quickly, and that just becomes the route. And our entire effort of making some sort of non-linear, open-space dungeon is very quickly wasted, because players work for efficiency, and that'll just become the way. And everything else we put into it is, sometimes it even gets annoying if we force you to go into different ways. And I think about some of the early FF14 dungeons, where they do expect you to kind of go off the beaten track a little bit to speak to an NPC who will run down and open a gate for you, and then you have to circle up to a place to talk to another NPC, then come back down. And after you've done it 3 or 4 times, it's very frustrating. Trial of the Crusader would be the same in World of Warcraft, where they had all this pageantry and all this kind of role play going on, and people were pissed. First time, sure, this is kind of cool. Second time, dude, this is just killing my soul. Like, I don't like this stuff. And that's their design philosophy in FF14, which I had noticed before. And we're going to do a little deep dive on that and explore that a little bit more. But all these different versions, from the casual to the hardcore, they did say the Savage versions are designed for the people who are clearing the Savage raid very effectively and need a relatively high gear level, or they expect to. I'm still going to try it anyway, even though I'm starting to work through the Savages from A Realm Reborn. Get ready for that stuff. That's going to be coming. Yes, that is coming. And that's who this stuff is designed for. So it's going to be very interesting to see how difficult it is, especially with a killer mouse waiting for you as you go through the door and go in. And of course, an in-between version for people just to enjoy as an extra dungeon and go through. But it's very linear. It's a set route, set pathways. It's designed with this in mind. And again, please God, give us feedback. But this is the features I'm most excited for. Absolutely cannot wait for these dungeons. I'm already planning my first day. It's probably not even going to be MSQ. It's, I think it comes from 625. Whenever the content comes out for these dungeons, that's my whole day. I just want to explore. I want to go in completely blind. I want to explore all 12 endings, then try the difficult version, then try the Savage version, and just mess around in this system and dig and poke and see what's hidden inside there, because they're making it very clear. It's like there's going to be some cool stuff lurking within. Ultimately, this whole experience of 6.2 coming, and again, we've glossed over Tataru's Grand Endeavor, the Hildy stuff that'll be coming in 6.25, although the teaser of that just looks ridiculous. Loporritz meets Hildy. God damn, that's going to be a thing. It was just amazing. I'd love to see what your favorite thing is, and I imagine for most of you it's Island Sanctuaries, so let me know. Do you think I'm going to like it? I don't know, man. I don't know. But thank you so much for listening, guys, and I'll see you again. Bye, guys.